Canada is full of small towns that at one point may have seen a major economic boom to years later see an even harder economic bust. And some of those economic busts were so detrimental that the people living there simply had to get up and leave and go find homes somewhere new. And well before the long-term side effects of asbestos exposure were known, this is what Cassiar, British Columbia was known for, was the asbestos mine that they had in town here that brought all the families and workers to live here, over 2,000 residents at one point, to simply have to get up after 40 years of operation and go find homes somewhere else. Asbestos was commonly used for the production of insulation and roofing. It was even used in some NASA production on their space capsules. The town had everything it would need to thrive, a hockey arena, hospitals, schools, even a movie theater and a ski resort. And if you're an NHL fan, a young Scott Niedermayer and his family lived here, and it was actually where he laced up the skates for the first time, I believe. There are even some accounts of former residents when they were children, they would grow up and have snowball fights during some of the long, harsh Canadian winters and recall that thin layer of green dust that would coat that white snow. And of course, that was the asbestos dust coming off from the nearby mine site. Finally, in 1992, after 4 decades of operation, the mine site closed for good. All the houses and infrastructure in the area had been sold off, and whatever had been left over the last several years had either been burned or bulldozed to the ground. You can still access the town, and that's what we plan to do, and maybe just do a little bit more exploring this time and really get a feel for what it was like here. Coming up this road from the main Stewart-Cassiar highway and just this little gem tucked away in the mountains, it's really unfortunate that this place is no longer. But we're going to take a little drive. We're going to go into the old town site of Cassiar and see what we see. Asbestos had been known in the area well before a town had been established. Early Native Americans recall spotting mountain sheep, using the long, fluffy fibers to bed down at the north end of Mount McDame, which would become the future location of the Cassiar Asbestos Mine. Now, this mine sat on the top of a mountain in one of the most remote regions of the continent at over 6,000 feet elevation. 100 road miles from Watson Lake, Yukon, so for the ore to be transported off to Whitehorse and to the rest of the world, a road would have to be constructed just to connect this little resource town to the Alaska Highway in the east. From Whitehorse, the fiber would be shipped in pallets on the White Pass and Yukon Railway to Skagway, then by freighters to North Vancouver, and from there to markets all over the world. It appears there are still some residents here, the big hairy ones, scoping out this road, and it's covered by thickets on both sides, very dense brush. So I figured I'd just chat with you guys. Got my bear spray handy. There is a road that looks like it leads up into these mountains, but I always like to get out and scout before I put the van in any sort of jeopardy, and ourselves, of course. Now, the old mine site is back there in town, and we're keeping an eye out for any no trespassing signs, because obviously we're not here to piss anyone off. We're here to explore, we're here to check the place out, and if we come across some people, we'd love to spark up a conversation. So I think I've gone far enough. There's a couple little potholes with mud and some water in them, but I think the van can get through no problem. So I'm gonna go back and we'll carry on up this road and see what we see. Yeehaw! Can't really find a bad view around here. Every direction is nice. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's nice right by the water.
Exactly. You guys are in luck. You stopped in on the right night. It's bath night here at Camp Walter, and we've got a freezing cold, crystal clear river right beside camp. So we're not getting in all the way, but we're gonna dunk our heads so we can feel fresh. No soap or shampoo or any of that nonsense. We're just gonna Go for the old head plunge. How's that feel?
It's good. My brain is numb.
She's taking a little while in the washroom, so I think I'm just gonna go right to the source. This evening on the drink menu is a moderately cold, crisp Omission Ultimate Golden Ale, gluten-free. There wasn't a whole lot of options in Dees Lake at the store there, so. And you know what? I'm not one to be much of a beer snob, so this is probably still gonna taste delicious. Apparently they got shooken up at some point during our drive. Not bad.
I was just reading the can, and it's saying like great taste, good flavor, 3 carbs, 99 calories, 0 sugar, gluten reduced, so cool. And then it says crafted to reduce gluten, beer fermented from barley, a grain containing gluten, and crafted to reduce gluten. The gluten content of this beer cannot be verified, and this beer may contain gluten. So, there you have it.
Everything in moderation, including moderation, right? It's a famous quote from my old man. You ever catch yourself sounding like your parents sometimes? It's pretty funny. Diesel and I took a little stroll away from camp. We're heading up this hill to try and find a little bit of a better vantage point. And now the town is back a little ways down the road from where we set up camp. So we're gonna explore more of it tomorrow. But for now, the main objective is just to enjoy some good old-fashioned camping. Now you may think, what's the draw of going to a town like this? Asbestos, it's dangerous, right? We know those health concerns now, but I hardly think that one night camping here is really going to cause any sort of harm. And sadly enough, a lot of different lung diseases and sicknesses have come from the people that used to live here in this town. Before it was known that the health concerns behind asbestos and being around it for such a long period of time, people lived here. There was a full-on town that lived here prior to 1992 when the mine shut down. There was houses, there was apartment complexes, there was everything here for people to come and live and have a good upbringing. And there's lots of really cool stories that I've been able to read online of people that used to live here and just what it was like to grow up. And it's sad because, can you just imagine where you grew up and having to leave just all of a sudden once the economy shuts down, you have to get up and go find home somewhere else. And now I think the reason I find such a draw to places like this in towns such as Cassiar is because I've heard such great memories growing up from my father's side of the family and where they grew up, for the families and the workers that would stay in this small town just outside of Sudbury, Ontario. And the families and the workers stayed in this town based on the penitentiary that was in that town. So when it shut down in the 80s, everyone had to get up and go find home somewhere else. We got to go and see it a couple years ago during our travels across Canada. But here, you look at the scenery around this town that once was, and the mountains and the rivers running through, and it's really unfortunate that this can't be a thriving place like it once was. It looks like Diesel's given up on going uphill, so I don't think we're gonna get the vantage point we necessarily wanted, so thankfully we have a drone for that. And the sun's going down soon, so we should get a pretty good lay of the land here.
Watch the colored sky fade into night. Watch the colored sky fade into night.
sitting there.
Alaska, and it's pretty busy down here right now, but
These guys seem pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd hang out with them.
Hazel, you want a buddy?
we've been on the road for
You wanna hang out
about
with
an
Wes?
hour
You want a
now,
new
and
friend?
had to stop off. Quick detour.
What do you got there, hon?
The last of our brownie. So there you go, served on a platter.
I don't know about any of you out there, but as soon as I have dinner or something savory, I immediately have to have something sweet right after. So we keep sweets in the van pretty much at all times. Well, you can tell we're getting further north. It is nearly 11 o'clock and I can still see the sun on the horizon. And I think on our trip that we start next week, we're not going to see a whole lot of darkness, so we may have to get ourselves a couple sleep masks or something. We're going to get to bed, get up in the morning and go check out the town a little bit. And we're going to continue our drive up to the end of the Stewart-Cassiar highway, and I think we're going to stop in at one of our favorite lakes tomorrow. Potentially get the boat down. We are still on a bit of a rush just because we need to be in Whitehorse the day after tomorrow. So, got a little bit of a time crunch, but absolutely loving it out here. It's good to be back at some old places and, of course, checking out some new ones. So, we're going to get to bed. We'll carry on in the morning. So it looks like we've stumbled upon some more historical relics here. We took a little morning stroll up to the old airstrip, and I'm not entirely sure what this building would have been, but I'm willing to bet it had something to do with the airstrip right beside it. So it's been decaying for what looks like a long time, and I guess since the mine shut down in the early 90s, I guess not much has been going on here, obviously. So other than the jade mining that's happening just up the road. But yeah, looks like an old truck here, just beat to hell. And then whatever this building was, but pretty cool. We're gonna go over and check out the airstrip. Looks like it goes on for a little while, but let's take a look. Poor old Chevy. Probably lost its transmission way out in the middle of nowhere up here. Or a boulder fell on it, I really don't know. But the whole roof is just caved in. Okay, hood doesn't want to go back down. Gonna watch my step as much as I can, because of course I picked the old rubber hiking shoes for today. And I lost one. Hey, Bear.
But I've said it already, but it's just such a shame. Like, you look at these properties and just the surrounding mountains and the scenery, it's so incredible. Kind of a shame, really. The rest of my team wasn't overly interested in stepping on nails this morning, so we got one chewing on grass and one waiting for the airstrip walk, so we're gonna head over there. You want to do some airstrip sprints? Yeah. Get the blood pumping first thing this morning?
Could do that. It looks like really narrow though, so I wonder when the last plane landed here.
Looks like the same resident has just left his mark all along this airstrip. Definitely on high alert. We got the bear spray with us because especially the grizzly bears probably don't see any traffic in this area anymore. And nature has definitely reclaimed a lot of this space, so they're probably not used to seeing a lot of people anymore. But other than the poot, we haven't seen any of them. I feel like no matter where you go in the world, no matter how remote you think you are, you'll always find one of those old drums somewhere. You don't get many opportunities to do these things, so you capitalize when you do. Today we're gonna see if we can fly. We're just at the end of the road here, and it's gated off. There's Scrappy Larry's, what appears to be a junkyard. It's all gated off behind. There's trucks in the way, so we're not going to go in there and snoop around. But you can kind of see from the aerial view, there's like the grid of where homes and side streets and stuff would have been at one point, which is pretty cool to see. But from what it looks like, there's nothing left. There was a church, actually, if you look back in some of the old articles on Cassiar, BC, and I think after 2015 it did burn down because I don't see anything in this area. So I think that wraps up our trip to Cassiar. It's cool to be back and to kind of, you know, go down the side roads and check out just the spots to camp and seeing the old runway and just seeing what once was. Everything just is really falling apart, and it's one of those really incredible places in Canada. There's so many of these little towns to explore and to kind of go back and just see and envision what it might have been like at one point. And it sounds like it was a pretty incredible place from former residents who have spoken about it. And I think they're still fairly close-knit from what I read. And I hope some of those people can see some of this footage and kind of think back on their time here. But thank you guys again so much for tuning into another video. Don't forget to subscribe so you can follow along with our big Yukon River trip as we paddle from Whitehorse up to Dawson City, and can't wait to bring that one to you guys. So thanks again. We'll see you in the next one. Buddy, get off the road.